So we'll just get officially started. We've been having some technical issues, and if you're watching this on the replay and weren't able to get in for any reason, I apologize. And before I'll apologize any further, I should tell you who I am. I'm Edward Sanchez of Brass Ring Web Design. I'm your friendly, frustrated host for the WordPress Meetup, the WordPress Web Help Meetup. We meet every second Monday at 6 p.m. unless the host has issues with with somewhere between Meetup and Zoom in getting credentials to you folks, which seems to have happened. I will dedicate myself to make sure that that doesn't happen again and go through I'll probably recreate the recurring event and see if as we all know, sometimes you reboot and it fixes our problems. And now AI is available to help set up recurring events. So maybe I'll let AI do it and it'll fill all the blanks where they're supposed to be and it'll put in the information that it needs to have. So again, welcome. Thanks for being here. We usually start out by asking for any issues, but I see that we have mostly Indians. Does anybody have issues business-wise or at a developer level that they want to maybe run past us or bring up an interesting situation that you encountered in your development business since the last time we met? Anybody got anything they want to bring to the table? No? All right. Well, why
I
don't we?
uh
Yeah,
I
go
I
ahead.
I mean I could get into a few things, but I
Absolutely. Yeah, don't be shy. What do you got going on, Matt?
um let's see. Trying to think. I wasn't prepared to address something on the fly,
It says
but
it's okay. As you can see, the production values we demand around here aren't prohibitively high, so bring it on.
yeah. Um would there be another opportunity later in the meeting, or is now the only time? Because I kind of have to get in there and see. I haven't looked at this website in a couple weeks.
It's your group, so we can certainly circle back and if issues come up or something interesting presents, sometimes just when Mike does his news, we get some interesting fodder for discussion. So
Yeah,
why don't we?
I'm not in my office today. I'm not. In fact, I don't even have a camera. I'm on a laptop and I have some apps running, so it's a little hard for me to share the
If
screen
if
here.
I screen the screen
Yeah,
share
yeah, we
for
could do it
you,
that way. That'd be easier.
because I've already got your website open, or do I? Maybe I lied.
Yeah, it's old news, but we can.
Yeah. No, let me where are we? There we are. And Mike's got a nice labyrinth, a woo labyrinth this this week. But before we do that, let's go around and just do a quick introduction. We've got all regulars, but maybe you guys don't remember Chuck, so let's start with Chuck. We usually do introductions just really quick, a minute, who you are, where you are, what it is you do, why you're here, if you have any ideas for our group moving forward, and whatever your biggest WordPress or business. We're all small business owners, and let's not constrain ourselves too much when it comes to topics. So if you got something going on in business you want to talk about, something you've solved or something you need solved, bring it forward. So Chuck, I just put the questions in the chat. So
Sure.
off with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Edward. It's good to see you. And yeah, so I've been I kind of put my business on pause um to help out my dad. And then after he passed away, all of a sudden I had a lot more time. So I kind of jumped back in, and I'm actually just working part-time. I've got plenty of work right now, and it's going really well. I'm getting a lot of referrals. And what's really gotten me excited is ChatGPT and how helpful it is with web marketing. I mean, if you, for example, did you know you can say to ChatGPT, um, look at my website and help me build some frequently asked questions, which is really helpful. Or did you know you can say to ChatGPT, look at this website and develop a logo for me? And the ones I've done, I've been blown away. And then today I learned, ChatGPT, look at this website and help me develop some keywords that I should be targeting for SEO. And it's amazing what it does. And another good one is, if you have like a brand new client, you're trying to do SEO, ChatGPT, the prompt would be, look at this website and help me develop a marketing plan with SEO. And it gets me so excited because it's so good and so fast. Is it perfect? No, but it kind of gets the ball rolling. So I'm really pumped on ChatGPT. In fact, I just paid $20 for, that you can do a lot of this stuff with the free version, but I just paid $20 because sometimes I was trying to build images and it said I hit the limit. So
Yeah.
it's
Oh, yeah.
amazing. It's amazing. I'm really pumped on ChatGPT.
And they just rolled out the new version 50, which,
They did.
and the thing
Yeah.
is, Chat GPT is definitely the Swiss Army knife of AIs. And just remind everybody, as you are using it, you are training it. So I make sure, like I had, and Michael appreciate this. I had a conversation with it because a lot of the online sources that are being drawn from are, as we've seen, in the early days of, was it Gemini, when they asked for pictures of Nazi officers and they had like Asian women and stuff like that. There's definitely some failures in the sources. So I had a strict conversation with, after receiving a rather, let's say, biased, and it wasn't anything important. I was just having a chat with a friend, but I received what I knew to be a rather biased answer, and I admonished it pretty strictly, saying, "Listen, in future, when I ask you for anything having to do with world affairs or anything that might be a political hot button, I want no bias. I want just strict facts and truth in any of the editorial stuff or anything that might color that goes along with that. Also, when I've been using ChatGPT in my business, and at first I was doing some, like, here, go through my website. Well, actually, at first it wouldn't go to a website, but eventually it did. Eventually it had the capability, and you could say, okay, well, here are the pages that have the or I forget how I prompted it, but basically to go to my website, because my website really does articulate what I do and my thoughts about me, my company ethos, mission statement, and all that. And visit that and create. I think I did a social post at first, and I've also done ads, and I've also done some procedural stuff, and I've also done some like checklists for things. Like I'm updating a lead magnet that at first was, it's an audit. First it was an audit, then I made it a PDF that you could kind of self audit your website, 17 fixes on why your website isn't performing. And now I'm in the process of trying to use automation tools to be able to, where you can just punch in your information, your URL, and it'll do. There are tools that do that, SEMrush and a lot of other ones that'll give a pretty detailed audit or a review of your site. But it's amazing how helpful ChatGPT is, and it's learning about my business as I feed it information and I have it think about different things. So I'm a big believer in it. I'd like to find the one that's a little better, because I know that this is kind of the most ubiquitous one, but there are, I guess it's probably, and if anybody has an opinion, let me know. It's kind of the master of all from what I can see, but it's definitely, it's a jack of all trades, but there are areas where you can get better ones. But I don't know if there's an all-in-one shop that you can go to AI wise that's better. Mike, you have any
I
experience with
With ChatGPT itself, just
that?
limited.
Well, with finding any AI engines that are a good all-around tool.
I wouldn't be the one to advise. All those images that you see are all AI generated. I've been playing around with different ones lately. Gemini, Stable Diffusion, played around with ChatGPT, the earlier versions. People like Claude. A lot of people think that was a good one, but I couldn't. Depending on what you're trying to do.
Well, I think where it's really helpful is if you have someone that's interested maybe in working with you and you're having an initial conversation over Zoom, and if they've never used ChatGPT, you start showing the potential client some of the capabilities of ChatGPT, you can really impress them because it's so fast and so good. And actually just training people on how to use it, because a lot of people that I talk to, they've never used it and they don't know what they're missing. So I find it really helpful in the sales process.
It's very helpful in all kinds of process. In It's been quite a while that I've been kind of frustrated with Google. Um, Even though now, they've added that AI feature, so that has been a notable improvement. That AI result. Um, but I do find myself going over to ChatGPT and getting much better answers on a lot of that stuff. So anyway, let's get back to our intros. Lance, you're next on my grid here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Lance, I'm in Connecticut. I make websites for people. Um, I'm always here for ideas. My biggest challenge right now is not WordPress, it's just chasing people for information.
Hmm.
So it's not, I don't have, so I mean, I don't know how that applies to tonight, but that's what I'm running into.
What kind of information are you not finding?
People have they'll have their headshots that they want on the website, and I gotta sit there and chase them down for them and stuff like that.
Oh,
To
that
the
kind of
point
thing. Okay, I got you.
to the point where I'm putting silly stick figure pictures up in their place. I
Yeah,
had
I found long ago it's handy to create an array of dummy images that you can use kind of like lorem ipsum, just as filler for
Yep.
now, but make use images that are decent enough that if you were to have to launch without the final portrait image, it's not going to be too stupid looking. You know, people will see, okay, it's a filler.
And I'll also say that probably most of it has to do with the fact that it's August. Most people are on vacation. So,
It is August, yes,
yeah.
indeed.
So that's my big issue.
All right. Well, good to have you here. Mr. Noder,
I'm
represent.
Mike from Spokane. It was 96 degrees today, so I'm out hanging with the
Ooh.
hummingbirds outside. What am I here for? I'm here to keep up with the technology and learn what I can learn. Biggest challenges, I'd have to say, taxes and regulations, which is why we're liquidating most everything in this state, and we'll be domiciled somewhere else in the new startups that I have planned.
Any sort of time frame for leaving the Northwest?
We're probably going to sell everything now. It doesn't mean we're not going to live here, but I'm not
Oh,
going to
I see.
incorporate. You know, the last one I did was Nevada. I'm not quite sure how it works with the tax
Oh, so
laws.
okay, so you're not picking up stakes. Okay, gotcha.
Well, but until my mom and immediate family, I'm sort of stuck here, right? But the whole
Totally
family, we're
understand.
selling family assets, we're selling rentals, we're pretty much going to try to sell everything because Washington State's just not a good place.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as a Californian, you know I understand.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we
that's
do
the
not
thing when
want
you
to.
that's the thing when you live somewhere really cool and you have roots, and then for political or fiscal idiocy, people start leaving. I've had so many friends have gone off to Texas and Florida and Tennessee and Missouri and I mean for a while there people were going to the up north, but that's not the case right now.
Idaho.
All right, that leaves you, Matt.
Hmm. Hey guys, my name's Matt, and I am getting started in my WordPress developer journey, and I currently work for a startup as sort of the WordPress admin. And it's been a kind of just fly by the seat of my pants kind of operation because lots of things pop up, and I just have to sort of figure out how to do them. And it's a real learning experience. But I'm trying to strike out on my own, like you guys, as a freelance, or I'm not sure what your structure is, but I'm trying to launch as a sole proprietor, just to start out and do some more client work. Um, I just thought of three things actually I'd like to talk about, and they're all kind of pertinent to things that we've discussed. Could I just introduce them real quick?
Yeah, hit us.
Okay, two of them are questions, and then, well, actually, three of them are questions. Last time we were talking about logos, um, and I took a bunch of notes when we were all discussing that, because when we were talking about the compliance issues in California and what's coming down the road. Um, but I'm still confused as to what type of, sort of fonts are permissible. Like I'm in San Diego, and I'm planning on making a couple websites just for my business and for my music project. And I'm thinking about, okay, what kind of logo am I going to go with here? Um, and what I took from the conversation that we had last time about this was it's got to be accessible, whatever logo you choose. Um, is that where we still stand here? Or I mean, I can't make something abstract, right? It's got to be something that like is easily readable.
You can make something
I,
abstract, but if you're marketing to people, you want something that's easily recognizable.
yeah. I mean,
Right.
and
So
you
I
can,
mean,
you can combine an abstract image with lettering.
the
Uh,
Nike swoosh is abstract,
yeah,
but it's simple and it's easily recognizable.
Okay.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there
And
isn't really any limitations there in terms of what you're allowed to kind of do in
It's
terms
not
of.
allowed. You can do whatever you want, but best practices, if you want people to respond to it, is to have something that's reasonably easy to to note it, to recognize, because that's part of your branding. So you want to be able to see that in repetition.
I
Okay.
gave you. Did you ever visit that Logo Lounge
Yeah, I did. I
website?
did, and I remember when we were talking about the that font that was super accessible. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but what was that whole point that everyone was making about the California situation with the websites needing to be ADA compliant with um, in
There,
regards to the logo?
there's
There
two
was I
issues here, right? There's the accessibility rules for the website, and then there's the logo yourself, which I think Lance, and I tend to agree with him, is the guy, they can't tell you your logo's yours. That's up to you, right? But the best practices is what Lance was talking about. You want it recognizable so that it's just it's distinct. And I think Lance, maybe Edward, I think most people use vector graphics for their logo. They'll use something like a PNG, so it can expand and contract without losing resolution, right? So whatever
I
you
just
decide on, you probably don't want to use a JPEG. You want to use a vector graphic.
okay.
I actually used ChatGPT for a logo this week. A friend of mine who is starting a business, and it's an interesting business because now we're having in an age of environment and environmental awareness and green and all this. Um, Believe it or not, people are renting out goats to clear brush. And especially with all the wildfires we have here, brush clearing is an important topic in California. But he's going into the goat business, and he asked me to put together a logo for him. And I'll look it up and I'll show it to you guys here in a minute. But um, I actually went to Chat GPT just for the F of it, and I gave it what I knew because he and I have been talking about this for weeks. So I prompted it, and it gave me back a logo, and then I started tweaking with it. And ChatGPT is still not a black belt when it comes to image creation, because somewhere between, I mean, it gets very frustrating sometimes where it's I know what customers have had to deal with over the years where they have an idea in their head and they just need you to do the technical push the buttons in Photoshop to make this happen magically. And of course, we all know that it's always harder to actually execute than to just, well, I just want this. Well, okay, that was, that took 45 minutes with the Bezier pen to make that curve happen, to make that simple symmetrical image, whatever it is. Um, but ChatGPT just gets freaking frustrating. As it turns out, I was going to have a meeting with him, and I was just going to sit there and, he's a buddy. I would have done it for him for free, and I was just going to sit on Zoom with him and try a few of these AI logo tools, and we were going to do that. I was going to basically do that with him on Zoom, sharing screens. And I showed him the first one that I created. And I had like 20 of them, 20 iterations. Some were round, different colors. The goat got bigger and skinnier and, a little bit more exact, a little less detailed, a lot more minimalistic, And I showed him all of them first, and then I ended with the first one that I generated, and he just fell in love with that one. And that one had taken me maybe 30 seconds of prompting. And he threw me a couple $100, which, I don't object. And we got a pretty decent logo out of it. So between Logo Lounge and something like Chat GPT, I think it could go really pretty far, Matt. You should play with it. And
Yeah, that's a good heads up. I will definitely check that out.
Check it out. Because remember, the principle, we're talking branding, and branding and marketing is all important or very important if you're expecting to get any sort of return business. You want to have a given look, and the look should work for people who know you already, but it also should catch the eye of somebody who doesn't know you. It should be significant, relevant enough to what you do and who you do it for, that if somebody were to just see it driving by on the side of a truck, that they might make a note of the URL or look you up on the web, whatever. So don't go too abstract. And if you do, make sure that you at least connect that abstract to you somehow. And
Um,
you're not going to get a lot of time to do it. So, make it happen. And I used to say 3 to 5 seconds. I'll just say 3 to 5 seconds, but it's probably shorter than that.
um, we can. I had a couple more things to talk about, but there are more
Okay.
questions. I don't want to take everybody's time up, so let me know when I
Yeah.
can ask
Okay.
them later.
Matt, I have a question for you.
Go for it.
I mean, I don't mind hearing your other questions, but it's up to Ed. But my question for you, is this your first business
Yeah,
launching?
yes, yeah.
You should think about your uh, your business organization. And generally speaking, a sole proprietor is not recommended. It's better to have an S corp or an LLC because you'll get corporate protection. Because if you're a sole proprietor, you might get sued for misinformation, whatever. Your personal assets are at stake, and it's real cheap to get an LLC up. And you can probably do it yourself. Like California, they want a lot more than most states for annual fee. I don't know how it works for a sole proprietor in California, but you don't have corporate protection. And I don't know the nature of your business, and if you're just publishing, you probably consider it to be low risk. You might want to consider errors and omissions insurance, which is pretty reasonable usually. But yeah, you should think about your corporate structure.
Okay, that was errors and admissions insurance.
Yeah, a lot of people they'll give that to you right, or you get a liability insurance. I was a demolition contractor for years, and I'd always get errors and omissions insurance in case you did a report or something that they relied on. They could be sued. It's very common in almost every inch. It's not very expensive at all. Uh, I'm not going to speak for the insurance company depending on what you're doing and the specific risk. But errors and omissions insurance is something that you typically get if you're a publisher or if you're writing stuff that people are relying on, like whatever it is. You might be doing it for a vacuum cleaning ventilation system or something, and you post something and it turns out it's a fire hazard. And then everybody starts pointing to you because they relied on you and they burned a building down. It's kind of an extreme example. And whatever the nature of your websites you're starting, it's probably way overkill. But if you have that corporate protection in place to begin with, instead of being a sole proprietor, because are you married?
No, I'm single.
Okay, because if you got a wife and you got kids, I wouldn't recommend doing business as a sole proprietor. It's very easy. You can do it. You just use your social security number. I think you probably have to get an EIN number, but yeah,
But of course, he is a Californian. So,
yeah, well, that's they're litigation happy down there too. So, yeah, see, all your assets are at risk, right? There's no corporate veil. You can't.
Yeah, that's a good heads up. And I don't know how you guys market yourselves aside from your websites, but I mean, I'm personally getting requests on LinkedIn to design people's websites and do things like that. And a lot of them actually I've been ignoring, which is unfortunate because I feel I'm a bit overwhelmed with other work. But and then there's all of those other issues of just not having the business stuff in place to. I'm really at the beginning with this. I mean, my one client is, um, I had to sign an NDA, and he trusts me. And I mean, I've been doing freelance for him for about 5 months, but he's the only client I have. So I'm trying to take this thing to the next level. But anyway, I let other people talk. I'm sorry I've taken so much time here.
No, you're cool. That leaves me. Last month I forgot to introduce myself, but I am Edward Sanchez. Putting my contact info in the chat. I work out of San Diego. I've been building websites for 26 plus years. What makes me different is I operate from a hub and spokes model, where the website is not just pretty, it's effective. I believe in building a website that has everything strong about your business, articulates what makes your business special and unique, but especially in a web that's fully SEO'd. We need spokes directing traffic, because relying solely on organic SEO is not as easy as it has been in the past, which makes secondary means of getting traffic, other means of getting traffic, email marketing, social media, even print. I'm a big believer in the lowly business card. If you have a good business card and you use it well. I have a book on how to use your business card to market yourself, and it's heavily relies on the masters of using the business card are the Japanese, but the business card in the midst of other ways, if used rigorously and well, can really be amazing. So that's what I'm about, and I said I'd show you guys my goat. Let's see if it shows. I may have to reshare here. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
You see the goat?
Yep. Looks
Yes.
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was,
Did you say ChatGPT created that?
I used ChatGPT. I prompted it well. And like I say, it was the one he liked the most. Was the first one that spit out. So I know it's not the best image generating AI, but in this case, and I'm getting much better at prompting. I have a lot of chats under my belt at this point in time, and I don't just. I tend to think in my head that I'm talking to a toddler, and I'm training a toddler to be a business associate, and that's why, as I do various tasks with ChatGPT, I'm thinking I'm training this thing. There's likely to be future overlap, and I want to make sure that I'm being as good of a teacher as I can be, because that's going to bring dividends my way. So anyway, and if you need goats to keep your lawn trimmed, let me know. I know a guy. All right. Well,
On his website, does he have some sort of tagline that would kind of prompt the visitors to understand that's what his business is? Because you see the logo, you're not thinking brush clearing, might be thinking goat's milk, or you might be, and not that you would do that in the logo. I'm just wondering, how do they?
well, the website's an interesting topic. I built a website for him years ago. He almost abandoned the business, and someone else that he was working with kind of picked it up and ran with it, and he's in the process of taking it back. It's not the greatest website. It's certainly not the one that I built for him, which was pretty cool, I thought. Um, but he has recently they have added a goat page, which is pretty precise in explaining what Capra Goats is and does. To be honest with you, he hasn't even bought Goat One. Right now, he's he's shopping for real estate. He's looking for land. He's also looking for co-oping with existing farms for keeping his goats there and for use of like transport trailers and things like that. So he's heavily in the research stage right now, but he's almost like this close from getting a deposit from the state, or was it San Diego County? I forget. Anyway, so he's really jumped into it, and it's something that government is recognizing as a valid expense of taxpayer money. So he's hoping to get in somewhere near the bleeding edge, but you'd be amazed how far along it already is. So anyway, short answer to your question is yes, Mike, and more will be revealed as we come along. And speaking of Mr. Noder, can we move into news, Mike?
Sure.
All right, let me.
So I've got two logos that were AI generated, one at the top and one at the bottom, just playing around. First prompt, maybe second prompt. So
Let's
that
see.
advanced, I just threw it in there, and that's what it gave me. I didn't play around with it too much. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, the footer, I think I use a different one, and I got that one there just as a,
This one here.
yeah, they're just two different logos. You should be consistent probably if you're going to do it. But this isn't a for-profit business. This is just a collective resource.
Well, and it's obvious you're learning AI
Yeah,
and
I'm
playing
playing
with
around
AI.
with these. Those are all AI generated. Well, not the 4th of July one, but all the other ones are AI generated in the first couple of
Yeah,
pages there.
some pretty creative stuff.
Yeah, it comes up pretty quick. I haven't had much problems with it. They're not all the same.
I mean,
probably
are these ideas just coming to you, or
yeah, I
because
just
they're pretty diverse, man.
yeah,
I mean, we're going from a trail sign to night bowling. Um,
yeah, just
that's some cool stuff.
I just prompted. You got to practice with the prompts, but I don't spend a lot of time. You know, I'll give it a couple prompts, and I might have to do a regeneration or two. My biggest problem was the sizing of it. So if you click through to Woo Wednesdays, like just for this one, just click onto the article there. I've had a lot of problems getting that. It's just a little too big. I'm trying to shrink that down. I'm getting close. I'm doing a lot better, but I don't think it needs to be tall. I need that about maybe 600 pixels instead of 900 pixels because it doesn't fit quite in the frame. But other than that, it's a lot better than they were.
You should start talking in terms of resolutions
Well,
or
I
ratios.
yeah, 16:9 is what this one is, I think.
But it must extend. It must extend considerably past the frame.
Yeah, you're talking about the aspect ratio. Yeah, some of that's set up in the theme, and I don't quite get so this is a featured image, where all the regular images I have a lot of control. I can make that come out just the way I want it. But with
Copy
the
that.
featured image, I don't know if I'm limited by the theme that I got to get the pro. I've played around with it. I'm trying to beat it without paying for the pro.
Sure.
It's close enough though. So
Yeah, no. I think they look really nice.
yeah, well, thanks. They're just it's the AI. It's not me. Okay, so typically as we roll down here, we always talk about the up and coming meetups for the week to follow. Except for the first two is Dallas, Fort Worth. Eric. Most of us know Eric, and then we know Eagle. They both do their own meetups. They both have their own websites, and they usually show up to Woo Wednesdays and often my other WordPress meetup. And they're great resources. They're generous with their time, and they know a lot. So those are static. You can go to their website. Eagles, the second one, the community. He's got a forum. You just sign up with an email, and there's a bunch of people on there. If you don't want to wait for a meetup, you say, well, I can't get this email, or I can't get this backup to work, or I can't get this to load. And you just click in there, sign up. Yeah, you have to put your email in there, and you can ask questions, and in real time, someone will usually come around and give you a hand. So he started this maybe 6, 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Whole website, maybe a little bit longer, but it's grown. He's a lot of stuff there. And then he does 2 meetups, the first Thursday and the third Thursday at 6 o'clock, which is Pacific time. I think we're all West Coast people except for Lance, who's the other side of the country.
Just noticing the trending post. The first one here is on GPT-5.
Yeah,
Conversation about that.
the gentleman that was asking about the AI generated and ChatGPT. This David Shargle is from the Portland WordPress Meetup group, and he is really, really deep into the AI stuff and has been for a while. So if you get AI questions, you're trying to get tips, I'd recommend maybe his help desk, which is moving to Monday nights now.
You want to make a note of that name there, Matt?
Yeah, it's Portland WordPress group. David Sharp,
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, guys.
whoever was asking about that. Yeah,
And that's this one here, Portland.
right. That was last Saturday. Lance and I were talking about that a little earlier. We're not sure if there's going to be one more Saturday one or not. But yeah, eventually he's moving them all to Monday nights now instead of Saturdays. And so almost all of these are over, right? We're at the web help. Bakersfield was last week, Buffalo.
But all of these are recurring.
Yes, yeah, most of them are either monthly or twice a month. I do Woo Wednesday every Wednesday, but yeah. So
Did you put the link into the chat? I can do it.
Yeah, if you've got it there, I'm outside and
Oh yeah.
I got something else.
There it is. Where is the chat? I don't like the way when you're sharing your screen, chat does weird stuff. But there's the link to
when I'm in the office, I've got 3 monitors, so it's very easy to control everything when I'm. But
I do too, but I've got when I start sharing, then my chat basically goes away, and I have to then
you
go
can move
find
that
it.
bar. You can move that whole bar, onto another screen. It's not tied to that window.
No, I realize that. Yeah. Okay. And where was I? Sorry. We were here.
So anyway, there's just a couple. Anyway,
did you want to highlight any of these?
No. Well, the San Jose, Santa Cruz one is a pretty strong one. Portland, if you want to know AI tools. Bakersfield's a regular one. That's a twice a month one. You see, they're the second to the last one, and then tomorrow, or let's see, that Wednesday there'll be the Elementor community, global community. They're going to be talking about some stuff. Now there is one more tomorrow night from the Inland Empire. It came in late, and it's a developers meetup, and so that's various. Steve Kinsey and various. They run that Inland Empire one. But anyway, on Wednesday, I'll have a whole nother list for the coming week, and Woo weeks go from Wednesday to Wednesday. And so this is old news. This is from last Wednesday. That's why most of them have passed. But you can click through any of them and join the group, and then they'll hopefully get notified. Meetup.com is not that consistent, but once you get in the group and you start following me, you can decide which meetups you want to go to.
Now, do you have somewhere else on your website where these are listed by the particular
by the groups
frequency?
themselves? Yeah, scroll up to the top, to the header.
So here.
Click right there, yeah.
So,
Now, most of these are online. Now, some of them have started moving, or they'll occasionally do live groups.
It might be useful to put the interval next to them.
What do you mean, interval?
Well, Bakersfield WordPress, it meets second and fourth Thursdays or, whatever.
Yeah, I could, but see, they move stuff around and they have, it's not always consistent. Like Portland, they'll have the help desk. They used to do it twice. Now they're back down to one, but they also have presentations. on separate
Oh,
things.
they're not consistent. I see.
Well,
Okay.
I can't say for sure. Yeah,
Got it.
like
Got it.
Cambridge. Anyway, they just
Cambridge.
yeah, they have some live meetups, which I think this month they're going to be live. But normally they're online, and this is
I
Cambridge,
see.
England, and they're pretty knowledgeable group. It's an easygoing group, pretty well attended. But yeah,
How many would you say have a kind of a floating date?
well, that I was going to get to is that there's a time zone considerations here. So as the time zone
Of
switches,
course.
the times will change too, right? So it's usually at 10 or 11, but then for 6 months of the year, it's the other way around,
Mm.
right? So, so I don't know if I answered your question there.
No, no, it's, I mean, I get it. Okay, let's get back to this. We were about here.
Yeah.
We done, are you done with this area here?
Yeah, there's a girl who's in the Elementor group, and she runs a WooCommerce meetup, and she runs a Elementor meetup. Anyway, they're going to have a meetup 10 o'clock on Wednesday, Pacific time. These are all Pacific time.
Gotcha. Okay. Hey, Edward from Brass Ring Web Design popping in for a sec to tell you how we can help your DIY website project by making your website effective, not just pretty. At Brass Ring, we take a big picture approach to digital marketing, building a strong foundation that drives long-term growth. We use our hub and spoke traffic model. Yes, of course, we design high-performing WordPress websites that serve as your central marketing hub. We also coordinate traffic to it from key platforms like email marketing, SEO, social media, and ads. We align every aspect of your digital presence for lasting success. More than just ad managers, we're your partner, optimizing the entire customer journey to better use your time and marketing investment and deliver lasting value. Training and coaching you along the way means you continue to save DIY money and retain control. And now, back to our meeting.
There'll
Okay.
be a whole cast. There'll be another 10 or so next week. WooCommerce, always kind of what's the current release. This is as of last week. I've not gone and checked to see if there's new releases. There's been a lot of dot releases coming out, but it's at 10.4. You can download it from the repository, WordPress repository. They got a free and a paid version for those that don't know WooCommerce. It's a pretty significant e-commerce plugin. A lot of people. It's probably the biggest. So, but if you're just starting out with WordPress, WooCommerce can be a bit of a challenge, and you would definitely want to come to these WooCommerce meetups to get some help. Because if you're going to start doing online stuff, but a lot of people since the pandemic they've pivoted to online sales, and there's a lot of opportunity there. But it can take a lot to maintain them. By the time you think about hosting and security and backups and then you got WordPress updating, and then you got WooCommerce updating, and then the plugins you have in there, they're updated, and there's always a potential for conflict, so you really have to stay on it. Most people, I'm not saying most people, but a lot of people, if you have a decent enough business, you probably want to hire a professional to manage it, and then you stick to your business. You spend all day trying to maintain a website, and you don't, your actual business deteriorates. Okay, so most of this is just WooCommerce news. Most of it's coming from the website themselves. They have a developer page for people that are developing apps. When people want to keep up what's going on, they're working on a new block theme to integrate for WooCommerce. They're changing some of the stuff. They had a couple of duplication. That's what that one article's about. There's a developer side, and then there's the general Woo blog, which is this next one, and they get into shipping and why you do free shipping and the pros and cons about it. And there'll be a lot of stuff in that general Woo blog talking about converting sales, managing newsletters, just stuff, not so much the nuts and bolts of running WooCommerce, but more the practices and standards for creating and maintaining a e-commerce website that will convert. Right, keeping track of your customers, responding to how you handle your return policies, how do you handle shipping, how do you handle all that stuff that comes up And some of these articles actually are fairly comprehensive. Now, the people in the WooCommerce group, they've been through it, so they all know. But anyway, you can read the article if you want. The general Woo blog is far less technical, and it's more general information for anybody that's running a e-commerce website. That being said, they do kind of self-promote. They do tend to promote their own plugins and that type of stuff. But most of the concepts are pretty standard. And whether you're using WooCommerce or you're using ShearCart or you're using any of the other e-commerce plugins that are available, these concepts are pretty consistent. And then down below, it looks like we got a customer review plugin that had some vulnerability issues. This search engine journal.
We seem to be having people drop in and out. We lost Lance. Chuck dropped is on 2 devices. Did you get bounced, Chuck?
Well, this is old news for Lance. Plus, it's over there. It's almost 10:30 for him.
Got it. Okay.
Because he's in Hartford, Connecticut. Is it? No, not Hartford. He's in Connecticut. I forget where he's at. So
gotcha.
We went through all this last Wednesday, so this is all new news for him.
This one seems like a pretty important article.
Yeah, it's more than just the analytics. They talk about the stuff that you should be paying attention to. I ran through it last week. I don't want to say specifically what it's all about, but they said there's other things that you should be thinking about if you're going to be monitoring your e-commerce logistics. And so they do give you some insights about how your campaigns work, how they compare them, the different stuff, why the data may not be reliable, or it could understate, or different campaigns merge into each other. So I usually have a little blurb about what it's about, and if anybody wants to read more, they just click through on the link and read what they have to say there.
Edward, I did not get bounced. I just switched to my phone because I want to keep listening, but I also want to go for a walk and get a little exercise. So I just moved it to my iPhone.
Sounds like a good idea. No, we also lost Lance about the same time and just didn't want to.
Yeah, he said he had to run.
We've already had enough. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to run. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, Lance is great. He's a regular at my meetups. Always like having him around. Okay, and so we have the WooCommerce news, and we bounce into the WordPress news. This is an older update from a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months. Very stable. They're on 6.8.2, but they're not a lot of stability issues. Where some of these updates, there can be a lot of conflicts, but this one was pretty stable. They have a maintenance release, and this is having to do with older versions of WordPress, going way back to 4.7 to 6.7. We generally would not recommend using that old. You want to get more current with your themes and your plugins for security reasons, for performance reasons. There's just a lot of reasons why you don't really want to be on something that old. But WordPress.org is doing some security updates, and it's not officially supported, but as a courtesy, they had this release upgrading the some security aspects of these older WordPress releases. But they really would say get on 6.8.2. That's the main release. That's the one they're focusing on. Then if you really like the WordPress community, and there's an annual USA, there's several WordCamps every year, but there's also the WordCamp USA, which is the big one. It's in Portland, Oregon. It's coming up in like 2 weeks. It's usually a 3 or 4 day event. They'll have different tracks. They give stuff away. A lot of movers and shakers. So if you watch a lot of WordPress videos, some of those guys will show up. It's WordPress.
It's $100.
Yeah, it's a pretty good deal. I mean, you got hotel and food, and living on the road is not cheap, but yeah, it tends to be a rewarding experience to people that do go to it.
Similar things in other industries, they charge you a significant registration fee on top of all your logistical expenses.
Yeah, this is an open source platform, and they're very competitive on their prices compared to what you would pay to go to Salesforce.com or some of these. Okay, now there's another article here. This is website security, 22 tips. It's a pretty good one. If you're going to be running your own website, you're going to be managing it yourself, you should at least be aware of a lot of topics in this summary. Now, this is coming from WordPress.com. I know one, maybe two are just kind of getting into this. There's a difference between WordPress.org, open source community, and then WordPress.com, which takes that software and customizes it. And they're sort of the same. There's a lot of confusion between them. But WordPress.com is a hosting company. They own WooCommerce. They own Jetpack. They own text messaging. They're very deep into this space. So anyway, this article is coming from them. But there is a difference between WordPress.com and WordPress.org. Most of us use WordPress.org because we don't want to be bound by any hosting company. We want to be able to move it around. We have a lot more latitude. But WordPress.com does do a lot of stuff for their clients. Okay, and then this next article, Web Core Vitals, WordPress for Everyone. Okay, there's Search Engine Journal's kind of Core Vitals has to do with how your website performs, and it affects your search engine results. And every year, Google's sort of tweaking that, and they talk about Web Core Vitals in this particular article and how some of the way they're ranking people's changing. I don't worry about SEO too much, but it's an article that if you're trying to get all your business online and you want to have a presence there, then understanding how SEO works can certainly give you an edge. Okay, and the next one after that is the WordPress AI engine plugin vulnerability. That's the thing with AI. I mean, everybody's all jacked about it, and there's a lot of code that oftentimes you don't know what's doing, and sometimes there can be malicious code in that AI stuff. And I've always been a little bit worried about it. It's a great tool. I think it's the future. It's going to be cheaper and better as it moves forward, but you still can get malicious code in that, or there can still be Windows. So you got to be a little bit careful about. You probably want to stay with the higher end, more well established. Like if you're using Copilot from Microsoft or using Gemini from Google, they're going to be on top of that stuff, and they're going to patch any problems a lot faster. But even ChatGPT, which is kind of one of the first ones, they've been very rogue. A lot of ugly stuff has been showing up in their stuff, like telling kids to get high and kill themselves. I think that was the article this week on ChatGPT. So you can get some bizarre stuff in there, but you never know what the code is and what sort of vulnerabilities, especially if you're using a plugin like this. Where what I do is I'll do copy. I have a summary or text, or I'll do an AI image. Then I take that and put it on. I don't use the plugins directly on my WordPress site. If you want to talk about best practices, you probably should talk to somebody like that David Shargle at Portland. Okay.
What was that about having kids kill themselves?
ChatGPT is showing up. There's some articles saying that they're saying a lot of weird stuff, right? They're like they're getting hostile. But anyway, this week one of the articles said they were telling kids to get high and kill themselves.
Jesus.
Of course, and I think they had to pull it offline for a little bit to fix it. It happens with all of them.
Wow.
But that particular one I was pretty sure was ChatGPT. And if I search for the article, I could probably find it. But I'm not on my normal computer right now.
Understood.
Okay,
All right.
now there's this charity theme, nonprofit WordPress theme. We generally don't recommend using anything but the most established themes if you're just getting started. And that would be GeneratePress, Astra, or Cadence. If you're using WooCommerce, their storefront default theme, or Elementor, their Hello theme. But for the most part, you want to stay with the well-established, well-supported themes because they're maintained. Like Astra's got over 1 million installs. It's very stable. It works well with almost everything, and they got an entire team that's always working at it. But you get these little, it looks cool, nice pictures, and they only have 500 installs and hasn't been updated in 18 months. You're probably asking for trouble.
Vet your plugins, and
Yeah,
don't use the annual themes.
Yeah.
Also, because 2025 is a different development team than the one that did 2024.
Yeah, they call that the WordPress default themes that come out with each release, and they tend to be a little, they're not fully vetted. Even though the team does a lot and they work very hard on it, and their full site editing is going to be the future, and they get better and better, but there's some stability issues. There's some conflicts that keep coming up. That's why most of the people are using established tools that work very, very well. And they're supporting hundreds of thousands and often millions of users are installed, and that community's churning all the time. But if you get off on these annual themes, these default themes that come with a new WordPress release, there may only be 50,000 users, and and then they're just getting started. They haven't used it because unless they were doing the beta, and most people aren't. So it just hasn't been as fully vetted is all. And
Sure.
then the last thing, each week I always have some sort of free resource for everybody, and they're very some. But this one we were talking about doing some stuff with CSS, and this code framework. You can click through to the repository. This is a free plugin that will help you with your, if you want to. Does that not the core
Mhm.
framework link doesn't work? Yeah, just click through there. Yeah, okay. So this is the repository. You can download this for free. And if you go down the description, it'll tell you all the things it does. And it really is about fine tuning the look of your website. If you're trying to get margins not right, or you're trying to do different types of fonts, you're trying to do, this is a very powerful plugin. It's only been around a couple of years, but 2 or 3 experienced developers spoke pretty highly of this. So I went ahead and threw it in there. I try to stay away from CSS because a lot of the people that I work with they're relatively inexperienced and they don't have a lot of money. If I stay with a theme and some basic plugins and don't let them get into a lot of specialized programming, I'm less likely to have it bust on me later on. Like you'll do an update and you'll use your CSS unless you're using a child theme, and I just try to keep it simple, because if it's a landscaping company or if it's a whatever, just small little restaurant or something, you don't have a whole lot of demand, keep it simple. Make sure it loads fast. Make sure the information is conveyed quickly, and you're just better off. Now, you can get fancy with all your programming and the looks and stuff like that, but that's more things to break. So unless you're willing to either learn this stuff or pay for an experienced developer, I recommend simple is the preferred way to go, at least until you get a little time in. Unless you have someone like Ed to kind of manage things for you, then you can get a little bit more creative. So there you go. That's the news for last week.
All the news that's worth printing. Thank you, Michael. As always, I appreciate you.
No problem.
Thank you
Thanks.
for bringing the news, and look forward to next month. Well, we're actually 4 minutes past our usual scheduled time for this meeting. Matt, did you have anything else that you wanted to circle back to topic wise?
Yeah, actually I do. Thanks. And Mike, that was really informative. Um, Excited about getting into some of those articles, because especially the e-commerce best practices stuff, because and with the security vulnerabilities, because I'm really, I mean, this website that I've inherited to work on is a disaster.
Well,
And
if
I
you
don't know, and I don't really know what I'm doing. So all of these resources are really helpful.
so if you if
Um,
you if you scroll through previous week um, posts, I don't. There's one every Wednesday, but if you go back and just kind of skim them, there are several articles about checklists for your website, checklists for security, checklists for e-commerce, checklists for converting. So you can pick the ones you want. It can be overwhelming. I've got a lot of posts in there, but anything in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I'll bet there's 4 or 5 articles about that topic.
Good to know. I will definitely look into that. So I'm personally with my website, I'm hosting with Bluehost, and I am actually really impressed with the customer service. I've been trying to troubleshoot some DNS issues with my email account, and they were super helpful. But um, one of their like hitches is they charge extra for doing website backups. And so then it occurred to me, you know what? I'm just going to host. I mean, I should have local backup anyway on my machine. Um, what are your thoughts on that? Like, what do you recommend? A local flywheel? Um, like what you get like for and just keeping a backup of your WordPress website on your local machine. What do you guys
I,
typically?
I put Updraft on all the websites that I build. You have to be judicious in how you set it up, because especially over the years, I mean, it used to be that they didn't care, but a lot of website or a lot of web hosts are now, especially your GoDaddies and what have you, they'll be a little persnickety about how much web space you're tying up. So you have to be careful when you set it up not to set up too many, because you can set them up as, I'll typically set up a website to back up weekly for 3 months. I like having 3 months worth of backups. But if you have a really large website or even moderately large website, that's a lot of hard drive space, and not all websites are going to enjoy you doing that. All web hosting companies are going to enjoy you doing that. And plus, a lot of them tend to be pushing backups.
Yeah,
It used to be that. Go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say Backtrack Plus and WP Vivid are two of the ones that are. Most of the security people say you should have three backups. You should have a server-side backup, a local backup, and a cloud backup. And now you can use the two tools that Ed and I mentioned. Those are plugins, and you can tell it how to load to a hard drive. You can get a terabyte hard drive sitting there, and you'll have a copy there. And I think I do mine every day. Although I had a big transition, so I'm not sure I'm fully back up. But I've got
If
a
I'm
master.
developing something, I'll do it daily. But
Yeah.
for most websites,
See, I get free.
yeah.
With SiteGround, I get free, or part of the pricing.
Yeah,
Bluehost is go- Bluehost.
um,
There's some issues because you're probably on the lower plan. You're the cheap hosting and the shared hosting, and so shared hosting brings more security issues because they're all on the same server. If they breach, then they're in your website, and next thing you know, you're losing control. And the Bluehost is. I'm glad that you're getting good service. That helps a lot. But we've had a lot of problems sorting out stuff on Bluehost. And that being said, you generally don't want your email, your hosting in one place. You want your DNS separate, somewhere like Cloudflare. You register it, but you don't want to send your emails from your website, because if your website goes down, your email goes down. Next, so they keep them in separate baskets for security purposes.
And the
the
thing
other
about
thing is,
hosting companies is, nobody that I've noticed has maintained excellence,
that was the next thing I
in
was going to
perpetuity.
That's the next thing I was going to say, is that your emailing, the deliverability when you're hosting sending them from like Bluehost, or even, I don't even do it from SiteGround other than from some cheap sites and that. If you use someone like Google or Outlook, they're dedicated servers. They're better on security. They're better on deliverability, and you can put your own domain name in there. You can authenticate it, and then you're sending using Google's or Microsoft's email servers, and it comes with way more security. They're monitoring that, and they're running millions. But you get off onto these little hosting companies, and you're trying to deliver from that hosting, and you could find yourself in having some difficulties in the future.
do you guys find it's an easy sell to a client to say, well, okay, we got to get you on the cloud, like for in an email client like Microsoft Outlook or something like that. Is that an easy sell to a client typically?
Generally speaking, it depends on your client. I mean, I have accounts that they got a Gmail and they don't want to change it, and and they don't even use their domain name. It's just what they want. But most people, from a professional point of view, like if you're xyz.com, it should be matt@xyz.com, and it should be consistent. And so if you have other ones like info or sales or whatever, you start building a hierarchy, but you're using that company's domain name. And then you can get on with Google, and for their, I think, $7 a month, unless you get to pay annually, you can get like 20 or 30 emails on there. You get different aliases, and plus you get all the other tools that come with it. But they know what they're doing, right? Now,
Yeah,
as far as,
and
go
so
ahead.
you would use Cloudflare for the email
For
backup.
the well, you can, but I don't think most people do. They use it for their DNS, their settings, and what they do is for security. So you'll have your registrar like you do it at name.com. I wouldn't register at the hosting company. I'd make those separate for a lot of reasons. And then you open up a free account at Cloudflare, and then you get all your records in there. And Eagle, who runs the San Jose Santa Cruz one, or Eric, they're really good at getting those records set up. But once they're set up, once your MX records are all in there, we hardly ever hear about email problems. We hear about email problems where somebody's on one of these little hosting companies, and then suddenly nothing's going through, and they're getting flagged as spam, and it gets a little right. But once you get set up with either Google or Outlook, then you're using their client. That's once you're set up, you're usually done.
And then back to the backups. Edward, what was your preferred one? I got WP Vivid, but what was the first one that we talked about?
Well, I've used several over the years. The one that I'm using currently is, well, I also have tools in my hosting. Believe it or not, I'm still a web pro for GoDaddy, simply because some of the portal tools are kind of handy. I can have kind of a one-stop shop where I have different clients listed there, and among the services that I'm allowed is the ability to do backups, to do security checks, to do performance checks. They have reports that I can white label and provide people when I do updates and maintenance, things like that. I was going to say there is we're talking about email, there is a plugin called WP Test Email, which at this point in time, they've got 20,000 installations. It hasn't been updated for 5 months, but that's well within the acceptable range for, if a plugin hasn't been updated for 2 years, it gets removed from the codex by WordPress. But it's been 5 months. Full information. It's not been tested with the latest version of WordPress, but it is something that allows you to test whether or not your WordPress installation is sending email. Because we, as of a few years back, when some of the ICANN stuff got kind of crazy, it was a while there when hosting companies were kind of getting up to speed with it. And I know I had, and other people did as well, had some deliverability issues for some time. It seems to have settled out, but this WP Test Email program does give you the ability to use, from within your website, check from time to time if your website's sending email correctly, because that's the worst, especially if you're, if suddenly the phone goes silent and you're wondering what's going on or why you're not getting things to your contact list. Sometimes the ICANN requirements can be part of the problem. So anyway, just FYI.
Yep.
All right. Well, it's time to shut this puppy down. Anybody have any last thoughts? Mike, Chuck, Matt, you have anything that you'd like to share with us?
I would just say I reiterate about SiteGround. I have had really bad luck with GoDaddy. I don't like them as a hosting company. SiteGround has been amazing, and I recommend them to a lot of people. And then as far as I
no longer recommend GoDaddy. That's for sure.
And the whole thing with websites getting hacked. My solution to that is I use a plugin called All-in-One WP Backup, and it's really makes it easy to move website files around. So my stand, and with SiteGround, you get 30 days of backup. But if your site ever gets hacked, my strategy is what I do with my backups is I put them up into Google Drive. And if a site ever gets hacked, which by the way, none of the sites I've ever had on SiteGround have ever been hacked. The only ones that I've had problems with that were hacked were hosted by GoDaddy. So I just don't like GoDaddy, but sometimes you have to work with them because that's what the client has. So if a site does
Yeah,
get
and that's
hacked, you can roll back. What I would do, and I've had this happen where a site did get hacked and it was on GoDaddy, is I would tell the client, look, GoDaddy's not a great company. Set up a SiteGround account. I'll restore the last known version that has no malware in it onto SiteGround, and you can do that in like an hour, and that just gives me peace of mind. So that's kind of my personal
yeah, and I
strategy.
definitely don't recommend GoDaddy, and especially they've had at least one major ownership change that I'm aware of. And when I chose them, when I chose to go to them and then joined their WebPro program, which was great at a certain point in time, great
Right.
dashboard, great services, hosting speeds. It's never been the if you're running Amazon, you're not going to host it at GoDaddy.
Right.
But like I say, I've had so many problems with them. It's still I'm used to using their dashboard, and
Right.
especially for my own sites and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't recommend them to anyone. They've got so many problems. And when I first
And
started,
their support is not very good. Like SiteGround
not
support is
anymore.
really, really good. Yeah, maybe it was at one point, but I
It
mean,
was
I've
you would pick up the phone and you would talk to somebody in Prescott, Arizona, that
right.
actually worked for GoDaddy. And then it's not as bad as it was like during pandemic when you would pick up the phone and you were almost guaranteed to get somebody in the Philippines,
Yeah.
which is the biggest waste of time I have found. Um, Now they might be getting better, I suppose, but definitely don't look for tech support from GoDaddy on weekends or nights. Whereas before they were pretty damn good 24 hours a day, and it was always somebody who actually worked at the company instead of just sitting there taking what you're telling them, typing it into a wizard, and then coming up with an answer which they really don't necessarily stand behind.
Right, right. I've talked to some technicians at GoDaddy, and I'm like, wait, I know more than this person. He's not helping me.
Oh, oh yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
SiteGround is the opposite. Those guys, they really know what they're doing, and they're fast, and they're good, and their sites run fast. I just like SiteGround.
Okay. Yeah, Mike and I go to the WooCommerce, the Woo Wednesday thing, and I was starting to lean towards SiteGround, because at some point in time I got to get out of GoDaddy. But you hear your complaints about SiteGround. That's the thing, over the years,
Right.
you know,
It's a
who
changing
is,
world. Yeah, it's a changing world for sure.
I have 10
yeah.
sites there.
And how are you happy with your services, Mike?
I'm real good, but if you're doing heavy e-commerce, you'll run into capacity, and it
Right.
Okay.
doesn't work all that well with WooCommerce if you're doing. I mean, if you got a small store, I got a couple three, and they work fine, and I'm pretty happy with because they're very competitive
Hmm.
compared, right? Because I can put several on the account. But if I'm doing, if you're getting 1,000 products and you're getting 3,000 people hitting your store a day, you probably want to bounce up a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, yeah. Sure, sure, sure.
So, hey,
Okay.
I got to go. Somebody's waiting for me.
All
Thank you
right.
very much, everybody.
Well, I'm going to shut this thing down. I'll keep it open for
Thanks,
if
Edward,
anybody
for
wants to
running it.
hang it out.
This has been great. Thank
Yeah,
you for
thank
everything you
Yeah,
do.
I apologize for the difficulties at first,
Don't
uh,
worry.
for everybody who couldn't get in, but be back next Monday, second Monday, and as always, we are looking for people that will put on specific presentations on products that would be of interest to our audience. So if you know of something, please reach out and let me know. So with that, I'm calling it a night. Good night, everybody, and I'll keep the room open after we shut down the meeting.
Night, guys. Thanks again.
Good night. Take care.